When single dad janitor Liam Byrne lunged across the boardroom to save the collapsed CEO, he wasn't just risking his job, he was gambling with his dying daughter's only chance at survival. Blood pounding in his ears, he administered the antidote with military precision, knowing that the woman gasping for breath before him held the key to the experimental treatment that could save his little girl's life. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. The boardroom fell silent. Aveline Langford's presentation on the quarterly projections had been flawless as always. Her command of the room absolute. 12 executive board members sat around the obsidian marble table, their faces reflecting in its polished surface like portraits in dark water. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline, a testament to the empire Aveline had built. None of them noticed the janitor quietly emptying the waste bins in the corner. Liam Byrne kept his head down, his movements efficient and unobtrusive. After 4 months on the night crew at Langford Industries, he had mastered the art of invisibility. He was the ghost who cleaned the kingdom after the royalty had gone home, the shadow who knew the building's secrets better than those who ruled it. But today was different. Today he was breaking protocol, working a day shift, entering spaces that were forbidden to maintenance staff during business hours. He needed access to this room, to these people, more specifically, to her, Aveline Langford. And in conclusion, Aveline said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass, "The Shaw acquisition will increase our market position by 17% in the biotech sector, particularly in neuropharmaceuticals." The word sent a jolt through Liam's body. Neuropharmaceuticals. The same word he'd seen on the shredded documents he'd painstakingly pieced together in the dim light of a custodial closet. The same documents that mentioned neurosynaptic decay syndrome, the disease slowly stealing his daughter Maya from him. Liam's hands trembled slightly as he collected a coffee cup from beneath an executive's chair. His 7-year-old daughter's condition was progressing faster than doctors had anticipated. Her small hands shook when she tried to draw, her greatest joy slipping away from her grasp. "We're running out of options," the specialist had said at their last appointment, the words still burning in Liam's mind. But that wasn't true. There was an option, a treatment being developed right here at Langford Industries. A treatment that, according to the documents he'd found, was nothing more than a deadly fraud. "Dr. Finch will be joining us momentarily to present the latest trial results," Aveline continued, checking her watch. "All the Langford initiative is entering its final phase, and I expect—" She stopped mid-sentence, her hand suddenly gripping the edge of the table. A look of confusion crossed her face, followed quickly by alarm. Her other hand went to her throat, her breathing becoming labored. "Ms. Langford," one of the board members leaned forward, concern creasing his brow. Aveline tried to respond, but no words came. She swayed slightly, her normally perfect posture faltering. Her eyes, storm grey and usually piercing, grew unfocused. Then she collapsed. Her body hit the floor with a terrible finality, papers scattering around her like fallen leaves. For a frozen moment, no one moved. The board members stared in shock, their minds struggling to process the scene before them. Liam didn't hesitate. He dropped his trash bag and sprinted across the room, years of military medical training kicking in. He was at her side in seconds, kneeling beside her unconscious form, assessing her with practiced efficiency. "She's not breathing," he announced, his voice commanding the room. "Call 911. The executives finally snapped into action, fumbling for phones, shouting questions, creating chaos instead of help. Liam ignored them, focusing entirely on the woman before him. Her lips were turning blue, her skin ashen. He checked her pulse, weak and irregular. He tilted her head back to open her airway, but her breathing didn't resume. Without hesitation, he began CPR, the counting rhythm automatic from his years as a combat medic. "Does she have any known allergies?" he called out, continuing compressions. "Any medical conditions?" No," stammered the closest executive, a woman whose name badge identified her as the chief financial officer. She's the healthiest person I know. This doesn't make sense. Something clicked in Liam's mind. He glanced at the coffee cup still clutched in Aveline's hand, then at her face, the specific pattern of symptoms. His military training screamed a single word: poison. "I need her purse," he demanded. "And now!" A younger executive rushed to retrieve the sleek leather handbag from beside Aveline's chair. Liam dug through it with one hand, continuing chest compressions with the other. "What are you looking for?" someone asked. "EpiPen, emergency medications, anything," Liam replied. But he was looking for something specific. His fingers closed around a small case. He flipped it open to reveal an auto-injector, not an EpiPen, but something more specialized. The label confirmed his suspicion: antidote for emergent poisoning, property of Langford Industries. Without hesitation, Liam removed the cap and plunged the needle into Aveline's thigh, depressing the plunger. Then he resumed CPR, counting under his breath, watching her face for any sign of response. 30 seconds passed. The room was utterly silent except for the sound of Liam's counting and the distant wail of approaching sirens. Then Aveline gasped, a harsh, desperate sound. Her body convulsed once, then her eyes flew open, wide with panic and confusion. She tried to sit up, but Liam gently restrained her. "Don't move," he said firmly. "Help is coming. You've been poisoned." Her eyes, now clear and focused, fixed on his face. Recognition flickered there, not of him personally, but of his uniform, the janitor, the invisible man. "Who?" she began, her voice a rasp. "Liam Byrne. I'm on the maintenance staff." He didn't add the rest. Former Special Forces combat medic, single father to a dying daughter, the man who had been investigating her company's darkest secret. The boardroom doors burst open as paramedics arrived, pushing a gurney. They quickly took over, attaching monitors, starting an IV, asking rapid-fire questions. Liam stepped back, suddenly aware of the dozen pairs of eyes fixed on him with expressions ranging from shock to suspicion. As the paramedics prepared to transport Aveline, she grabbed one of their arms. "Wait!" she commanded, her voice weak but unmistakably authoritative. She pointed at Liam. "Him! He comes with me." The paramedic looked confused. "Ma'am, we need to get you to the hospital immediately. Only family." "He comes with me." Each word was etched in steel. Even at death's door, Aveline Langford was not a woman to be denied. The security chief stepped forward. "Miss Langford, we don't know anything about this man. For your safety, he just saved my life," she interrupted. "Oh, Dan, someone in this room just tried to take it." Her gaze swept across the board members, who shifted uncomfortably under her scrutiny. "I'm not going anywhere without him." The paramedics exchanged glances, then nodded. "Fine, but we need to move now." As they wheeled Aveline toward the elevator, Liam followed, his mind racing. This wasn't how he had planned to make contact with Aveline Langford. He had intended to approach her privately, to show her the evidence he'd gathered about Dr. Finch's fraudulent cure. But now everything had changed. Someone had tried to kill her. Someone connected to the same conspiracy he had uncovered, and now he was being pulled into the center of the storm. Just before the elevator doors closed, Liam caught a glimpse of the boardroom. The executives stood frozen, their faces masks of confusion and fear. All except one, a man at the far end of the table who watched the departing gurney with cold, calculating eyes. Dr. Alistair Finch had arrived just in time to see his plan fail. In the elevator, Aveline's hand suddenly gripped Liam's with surprising strength. Her eyes locked onto his, feverish but determined. "Neurosynaptic decay syndrome," she whispered. Liam's heart nearly stopped. "What did you say? You know what it is, don't you?" Her voice was barely audible over the paramedics' activity. "That's why you were in that room today. That's why you had access to the antidote so quickly." Before he could respond, her eyes fluttered closed, the brief surge of strength deserting her. But the message was clear. Somehow, she knew, the carefully constructed invisible man had been seen after all. As the elevator descended, Liam thought of Maya waiting at home, drawing with trembling hands. unaware that her father had just stepped into a dangerous world of corporate espionage and attempted murder, unaware that the treatment he had pinned his desperate hopes on was a deadly fraud, unaware that her fate was now inextricably linked with that of Aveline Langford, the most powerful woman in the city. The elevator doors opened to a chaos of flashing lights and shouting voices. As they rushed toward the waiting ambulance, Liam made a silent promise to his daughter he would see this through, no matter the cost, because somewhere in this tangled web of lies and murder lay the truth about the disease that was stealing Maya's future and perhaps, just perhaps, a real chance to save her. The emergency room burst into controlled chaos as the paramedics wheeled Aveline through the sliding doors. Liam followed, still wearing his blue janitor's uniform, the incongruity of his presence drawing curious glances from the medical staff. Female, mid-40s, suspected poisoning, initial cardiac arrest with successful field resuscitation, the lead paramedic reported to the waiting trauma team. The patient was unconscious for approximately 2 minutes before response to an unknown antidote administered by this civilian. A doctor in a white coat approached Liam. "You administered an antidote? Are you medical personnel? Former combat medic? Special forces?" Liam replied, his voice low but steady. "The antidote came from her own purse. I recognized the symptoms as consistent with a specialized neurotoxin we encountered overseas." The doctor's eyebrows rose slightly before he nodded and turned his attention back to Aveline. They transferred her to a hospital bed, connecting her to monitors and drawing blood for immediate toxicology. "Sir, I'm going to need you to wait outside," a nurse told Liam firmly, guiding him toward the waiting area. Liam hesitated. He couldn't leave now. Not when Aveline was the key to everything, not when she had recognized what he knew. But before he could protest, a firm hand gripped his shoulder. "Mr. Byrne stays." The voice was unmistakable. Graves, Aveline's head of security, had arrived. His face was a mask of controlled fury as he flashed his credentials to the hospital staff. "Ms. Langford's orders." "He's under my supervision." The nurse looked between them, then nodded reluctantly. Graves led Liam to a private family waiting room, closing the door behind them with a soft click that somehow sounded more threatening than a slam. "Sit." It wasn't a request. Liam sat, his body tense but his face carefully neutral. Graves remained standing, his broad frame blocking the door. "You have 30 seconds to explain how a night shift janitor knew exactly what to do when the CEO of Langford Industries was poisoned in a secure boardroom." Graves's voice was eerily calm. "And why you happened to be in that room at that exact moment." Liam met his gaze steadily. "I was reassigned to day shift this week. Check the schedule." "I did. The reassignment request came from Dr. Finch's office." Interesting coincidence. Liam's mind raced. Finch had requested him. That couldn't be right, unless Finch knew Liam was investigating him and wanted him close. A trap within a trap. "As for how I knew what to do," Liam continued, 7 years as a special forces medic. 3 tours in combat zones. I've seen that type of poisoning before. "And the antidote? How did you know she carried it?" "I didn't. I was looking for any emergency medication. But when I saw it," Liam hesitated, knowing his next words would cross a line. "Let's just say I've been investigating neurosynaptic decay syndrome for personal reasons. I recognized the compound name." Graves' expression didn't change, but a dangerous stillness came over him. "Personal reasons. My daughter, Maya." Liam's voice cracked slightly despite his efforts. "She's 7, diagnosed 6 months ago. Stage 2, progressing rapidly." For the first time, something like uncertainty flickered across Graves' face. He was silent for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. "I need a full background check on Liam Byrne," he said to someone on the other end. "Military service, medical records for his daughter Maya, everything. Priority 1. And get me the security footage from the boardroom. Last 3 hours?" Liam watched him, a cold dread settling in his stomach. His life, Maya's life, was being dissected in real time, but he had expected this from the moment he decided to investigate Langford Industries. What he hadn't expected was Aveline Langford recognizing the name of the disease, whispering it to him like a secret code. Graves ended the call and fixed Liam with a penetrating stare. "If you're lying about any of this..." The door opened, interrupting whatever threat was coming. A doctor entered, looking between them. Ms. Langford is stabilized and conscious. She's asking for both of you. They followed the doctor through the quiet corridors of the VIP wing to a private room where Aveline sat propped up in bed. The hospital gown couldn't diminish her commanding presence, though her face was pale and drawn. An IV dripped clear fluid into her arm, and monitors beeped steadily beside her. Graves, she acknowledged, then turned her gaze to Liam. Mr. Byrne. How are you feeling, Mom? Graves asked, positioning himself protectively at her bedside. Like someone tried to kill me. Her voice was hoarse but steady, and nearly succeeded. She gestured to the chairs beside her bed. Sit, both of you. We don't have much time. Liam sat cautiously, feeling the surreal weight of the moment. 12 hours ago, he had been mopping floors in the basement of Langford Tower. Now he was sitting beside the CEO's hospital bed, about to discuss a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of her company. Preliminary toxicology confirms it was polonium-derived, Aveline said without preamble. A signature compound developed in our own labs for military applications 5 years ago. The project was officially terminated and all samples destroyed. Officially, Graves repeated, his expression darkening. Yes, Aveline's eyes met Liam's. The same compound was later repurposed by Dr. Finch for the Langford Initiative. His team modified it as a delivery system for targeted neurological treatments. She paused. Or so I was told. Liam leaned forward slightly. Ms. Langford, how did you know I was investigating neurosynaptic decay syndrome? A ghost of a smile touched her lips. I didn't, but when a janitor somehow knows exactly what antidote to use for a classified compound E and then administers it with military precision, one makes educated guesses. Her expression hardened. Now, your turn. How much do you know? And how? Liam glanced at Graves, who gave a barely perceptible nod. 3 weeks ago, I was emptying shredding bins on the research floor. Liam began, choosing his words carefully. One of the bags split. While cleaning up, I noticed fragments of documents about the Langford Initiative, fragments that mentioned NDS, my daughter's disease. He hesitated. I reconstructed some of the shredded pages. Instead of anger, Aveline's expression showed only intense focus. And what did you learn? That the initiative isn't what it claims to be. The treatment doesn't work. It accelerates the disease. The mortality rates in the trial were buried in appendices, falsified in summary reports. And there was mention of a primary test subject, your brother, Kellen Langford. Aveline's face went blank, her expression unreadable. Graves stiffened beside her. You've been busy, Mr. Byrne, she said quietly. I was desperate, he replied, a surge of courage rising with his fear. Wouldn't you be? A cure was being developed in the very building I work in. A cure for the thing that's killing my little girl. And what you learned prompted you to cause a scene in my boardroom today. No, I was going to approach you privately, show you what I found. Liam shook his head. But someone poisoned you first. Someone who knows what I know. Aveline studied him, her mind visibly processing, analyzing. Was he an elaborate corporate saboteur? A pawn in a rival company's game? Or something far more dangerous? A desperate father who had stumbled upon a truth she herself had refused to see. Ms. Langford, the doctor interrupted from the doorway. I'm sorry, but you have more visitors. FBI agents and your legal team are demanding to speak with you. Aveline's jaw tightened. Tell them I'll be available in 20 minutes. After the doctor left, she turned back to Liam. I need proof. Everything you found, everything you know. It's at my apartment, hidden. She nodded to Graves, who immediately stood. I'll send a team. No, Liam interrupted, panic flaring. My daughter is there with a neighbor. If armed men show up, understanding flashed across Aveline's face. Graves, you and Mr. Byrne will go. Alone. Bring his daughter here. She'll be safer under our protection. She fixed Liam with an intense stare. If you're telling the truth about any of this, Mr. Byrne, we have a mutual interest. But if you're lying, she left the threat unspoken, but Liam felt its weight nonetheless. One more thing, Aveline said as they turned to leave. After today, there will be no record of Liam Byrne on the Langford Industries payroll. As far as anyone knows, you were never there. You never saw those documents. You never saved my life. Liam nodded slowly, understanding dawning. She was erasing him, either to protect him or to eliminate a liability. Perhaps both. What happens now? He asked. Aveline's eyes were cold steel, her voice dropping to a lethal whisper. Now, Mr. Byrne, We find out who tried to kill me, who's poisoning my brother, and who's built a fraud that's killing children like your daughter. And then we make them pay. The black SUV moved through the evening traffic with silent efficiency. Graves drove, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings, while Liam sat rigid in the passenger seat. The silence between them was heavy with unspoken questions. Your military record is impressive, Graves finally said, his voice neutral. 2 silver stars, 3 purple hearts, distinguished service cross. Liam kept his eyes on the road. Oh dear, that was a different life. Was it? Graves glanced at him. Special Forces combat medic with additional training in counterintelligence and toxicology. Seems relevant to today's events. Liam said nothing. The background check had been thorough and fast. What I don't understand, Graves continued, is how you went from that to mopping floors at Langford Industries. When Maya got sick, I needed stability, regular hours. Health insurance? Liam's voice tightened. The military doesn't prepare you for fighting an enemy you can't see, in a battlefield inside your own child's body. Graves nodded slightly, a flicker of understanding crossing his normally impassive face. Take the next right, Liam frowned. That's not the way to my apartment. We're making a stop first. Graves turned the SUV into the parking lot of a nondescript office building. Oh, wait here. He disappeared inside, returning 10 minutes later with a small metallic case. Without explanation, he placed it in the back seat and resumed driving. What is that? Liam asked. Insurance. Graves navigated through a series of turns, taking an indirect route that Liam recognized as counter-surveillance protocol. Ms. Langford isn't the only one who's been investigating Dr. Finch. Liam's heart rate quickened. You knew. I suspected. There were inconsistencies in his reports, equipment requisitions that didn't match stated protocols, restricted areas I wasn't allowed to monitor. Graves's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, but I lacked proof, and Mrs. Langford trusted him completely until today. They arrived at Liam's apartment complex, a modest building in a working-class neighborhood far from the gleaming towers of downtown. Graves parked across the street, scanning the area with practiced eyes. Anything unusual? He asked. Liam studied the building. 2nd floor, 3rd window from the left. Mrs. Henderson's apartment. Lights off. She never turns it off before 9. Graves nodded approvingly at the observation. Stay alert. They approached cautiously. The lobby was empty, the elevator broken as usual. They took the stairs, Graves moving with surprising silence for a man his size. Outside apartment 214, Liam paused, listening. No sound of Maya's cartoons, no laughter. His heart clenched. Maya, he called, unlocking the door. Mrs. Henderson. The apartment was dark and still. Liam flipped on the light, revealing a modest living room with worn but clean furniture. Crayon drawings covered the refrigerator, bright splashes of color against the white surface. A half-finished bowl of cereal sat on the coffee table beside a worn sketchbook. But no Maya. Maya! Liam called again, panic rising in his throat as he moved quickly through the small apartment, checking her bedroom, the bathroom, the closets. Graves remained by the door, watching silently as Liam's search grew more frantic. Then he held up a hand. Burn! Look, on the kitchen counter lay a note in unfamiliar handwriting. Took Maya for ice cream. Back by 7. Anna. Who's Anna? Graves asked sharply. Mrs. Henderson's daughter. She sometimes watches Maya when her mother has a doctor's appointment. Liam checked his watch. 6:47 p.m. They should be back soon. Graves nodded. Get what you need. Quickly, Liam moved to the bookshelf and pulled out a battered copy of The Little Print. Inside was a hollow where he'd hidden a USB drive containing the reconstructed documents. From beneath his mattress, he retrieved a notebook filled with his own observations and analysis. A key turned in the lock. Both men tensed, Graves reaching inside his jacket. The door opened to reveal an elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair. Beside her stood a small girl with dark curls and Liam's eyes, clutching a worn sketchbook. Daddy! Maya launched herself at Liam, who caught her in a fierce hug, burying his face in her hair to hide the relief flooding his eyes. Hey, sweet pea, he whispered. Did you have fun? We got chocolate ice cream, and I drew a new picture of our castle. She held up her sketchbook proudly, then noticed Graves. Her smile faltered. Who's that? A friend from work, Liam said, keeping his voice light. Maya, we need to go on a little trip. Can you pack your backpack, the special one? with your favorite things." Maya's eyes widened. They had practiced this, the emergency bag, always ready. She nodded solemnly and went to her room. Mrs. Henderson looked between the two men. Concern etched on her face. "Liam, is everything all right?" "Family emergency," he said, the lie practiced and smooth. "My sister's in the hospital. We might be gone a few days." The elderly woman squeezed his arm. "You call if you need anything." Maya was an angel, as always. While Maya packed, Liam quickly gathered essential medications from the bathroom cabinet, treatments that slowed her symptoms but couldn't stop the disease's progression. His hands lingered on the pill bottle, each one representing a failed hope, a temporary reprieve. "Daddy!" Maya stood in the doorway, her pink backpack clutched in trembling hands. "Are we going to see the doctors again?" The vulnerability in her voice broke his heart. "No, sweet pea, not those doctors. Good, they make me sad." She held up her sketchbook. "I drew a new gate for our castle. It's stronger now. No monsters can get in." Liam knelt before her, gently taking her small hands in his. The tremors were worse today, a constant, subtle vibration beneath her skin. "That's perfect, Maya. We want to keep those monsters out." Graves watched this exchange from the doorway. His professional detachment momentarily softened. When Maya looked at him, he attempted an awkward smile. "Are you a soldier like Daddy used to be?" she asked. "Something like that," Graves replied. "Do you keep monsters out too?" A strange expression crossed his face. "I try." They left the apartment quickly, Liam carrying Maya's backpack and medications. In the SUV, Maya sat quietly in the back seat, her hands busy with her sketchbook, occasionally pausing when the tremors became too intense. "Where are we going, Daddy?" "To meet someone important," Liam answered, his eyes meeting Graves's in silent communication. "Someone who might be able to help us." As they drove back toward the hospital, Graves's phone rang. His expression darkened as he listened. "Change of plans," he said after ending the call. "The hospital's compromised. Two men posing as FBI agents tried to access Ms. Langford's room. Security detained them, but there will be others." "Where then?" Liam asked, instinctively reaching back to touch Maya's knee. "Safe house. Ms. Langford is already en route." Graves made a sharp turn, heading away from the city center. "She wants to see everything you've collected, and she has questions about your daughter's condition." Liam nodded, watching the city lights blur outside the window. His world had narrowed to this car, to the precious cargo in the back seat, to the evidence that might save her. He had crossed a line today that couldn't be uncrossed. He was no longer invisible. "Mr. Graves," Maya's small voice came from the back seat. "Is your friend sick like me?" Graves's eyes met Liam's briefly before he answered, "No, but her brother is." "Does he shake too?" Maya held up her hands, demonstrating the tremors. "Sometimes I can't hold my crayon right." "Yes," Graves replied softly. "He shakes too." Maya nodded sagely. "Then I'll draw him a picture of a castle where nobody shakes and the monsters stay outside." Liam turned to look at his daughter, this small, fierce light in his life who somehow maintained hope despite everything the disease had taken from her. In that moment, his resolve hardened. He would tear down Langford Industries brick by brick if necessary, expose every lie, confront every monster, not just for Maya, but for all the children like her who had been betrayed by Finch's deadly fraud. The SUV turned onto a private road that wound into the wooded hills outside the city, far from the gleaming skyscrapers and corporate boardrooms, far from the world of power and privilege that Aveline Langford commanded. Yet somehow their fates had become intertwined, a janitor and a CEO, bound by a shared enemy and a desperate hope. The safe house was not what Liam expected. Rather than a Spartan, utilitarian facility, it was a secluded lakeside cabin with rough-hewn timber walls and wide windows that would have offered spectacular views in daylight. Security features were integrated so seamlessly they were nearly invisible, except to his trained eye, which noted the reinforced doors, bulletproof glass, and discreet camera placement. Inside, Aveline Langford sat at a rustic dining table that had been transformed into a command center. Multiple laptops and secure phones surrounded her, along with medical equipment monitoring her vital signs. She had changed from the hospital gown into simple black clothing, that somehow still managed to convey authority. When Maya entered, Aveline's expression softened momentarily. It was a subtle change, a slight relaxing around her eyes, a gentler set to her mouth, but Liam caught it. "You must be Maya," Aveline said, her voice warmer than Liam had heard it before. Maya, suddenly shy, pressed against her father's leg. "Are you the important person?" A ghost of a smile touched Aveline's lips. "I suppose I am. My name is Aveline." "That's a pretty name," Maya said, then held out her sketchbook. "I drew this for your brother. Daddy's friend said he shakes like me." Aveline accepted the drawing with careful hands. It showed a bright yellow castle with a distinctive red gate. Inside the walls, stick figures stood with perfectly straight lines for arms. No tremors, no shaking. For a moment, Aveline simply stared at the drawing. When she looked up, her eyes shimmered with something Liam couldn't name. "Thank you, Maya," she said softly. "He'll love this." A woman in nursing scrubs appeared from a back room. "Ms. Langford, I've set up the play area as you requested." "Maya," Aveline said, "would you like to see some special toys while your father and I talk? Sarah is a very nice nurse who takes care of my brother sometimes." After Maya had been settled with puzzles and art supplies in an adjoining room, visible through a glass door but out of earshot, Aveline's demeanor shifted back to steel. "Show me everything," she commanded. Liam placed his USB drive and notebook on the table. Graves connected the drive to a secure laptop while Liam opened his notes. "I started noticing inconsistencies 3 weeks ago," Liam began. The shredded documents were from Dr. Finch's quarterly progress report, parts that were redacted from the final version submitted to the board. The screen filled with Liam's meticulously reconstructed documents, pages pieced together like a digital jigsaw puzzle. Some words missing, but the meaning horrifyingly clear. Aveline leaned forward, her eyes scanning the fragments. "Phase 3 trial mortality rate, 73%. Her voice was barely a whisper. "The report I received claimed 7%. He simply removed a digit," Liam said. "But that was just the beginning. Look here." He pointed to another reconstructed page. "This shows the biochemical breakdown of the treatment compound. It contains a modified version of the same neurotoxin used to poison you today." Graves leaned over Aveline's shoulder, his expression darkening. "It's not a delivery system as claimed. It's the active agent itself. The treatment doesn't cure NDS," Liam continued. "It accelerates it, causes rapid neurological deterioration that mimics the disease's final stages. But with one key difference." He turned to a diagram showing brain scan. "It preserves specific neural pathways while destroying others." "Why?" Aveline asked, her voice hollow. "What possible purpose?" "Weapons development," Graves interrupted, his face grim. "A neurotoxin that leaves cognitive functions intact while destroying motor control. Military application." "That's my assessment as well," Liam agreed. "But there's more. Look at the financial reports." The screen showed complex fund transfers through shell companies, all leading back to a single entity, Helios Analytics. "I couldn't identify Helios at first," Liam said. "But yesterday, I found this." He pulled up an article showing a distinguished-looking older man receiving a scientific award. Dr. Corbin Vance, former head of neurochemical weapons research for a military contractor. 5 years ago, he was publicly disgraced for falsifying trial data. He disappeared from the scientific community until Finch hired him through a shell corporation. Aveline finished, her face ashen. "They're using my brother and children like Maya as test subjects." She stood abruptly, moving to the window to stare out at the darkness. Her reflection in the glass showed a woman fighting to maintain control as her world crumbled around her. "I've spent $1 billion of my personal fortune on this project," she said, her voice tight. "I trusted Finch. I believed in the miracle because I had to. For Kellen." Liam watched her carefully. "Where is your brother now?" "At another secure facility, one Finch doesn't know about." She turned back to face them. "After your warning in the hospital, I had him moved immediately. His condition is deteriorating." "May I see his medical files?" Liam asked quietly. Aveline's eyes narrowed slightly. "You're a janitor, Mr. Byrne, not a neurologist." "I've spent every waking hour researching this disease since Maya's diagnosis," Liam replied evenly. "I've read every paper, every study. I've consulted specialists across the country, and I was trained to recognize chemical weapons effects. After a moment's hesitation, Aveline nodded to Graves, who pulled up Kellen's medical records on a separate laptop. Liam studied the data intently, his brow furrowed in concentration. Aveline watched him, noting the way his eyes moved methodically through the charts, the slight nod when he confirmed a pattern, the frown when something didn't align with his understanding. The progression is nearly identical to Maya's, he finally said, but accelerated by approximately 40%. These spikes in neural degradation correspond exactly with the treatment schedule. They're poisoning him, Aveline said flatly. Systematically. Yes, but the question is, why maintain this elaborate charade? Why not simply... Liam stopped, unwilling to finish the thought with Maya so close by. Because it's not just about killing, Graves said, his voice low. It's about data. They're mapping the progressive deterioration, measuring responses, refining their compound. How many other patients are in this trial? Liam asked. Aveline's face was stone. Just 17 children, all with confirmed NDS diagnosis, all showing promising early response, according to Finch's reports. The weight of it settled over the room like a shroud. 17 families, clinging to the same desperate hope that had driven Liam to piece together shredded papers in the dark. We need to move fast, Aveline said, her voice suddenly crisp with renewed purpose. Finch doesn't know what evidence we have, but he knows we're on to him. After the failed attempt on me today, he'll accelerate his timeline. The other test subjects, Liam said urgently, we need to warn their families. Already in progress, Graves replied. I have a team quietly reaching out, bringing them to secure locations. But we have to be careful. Spook Finch too soon, and he'll destroy evidence. Or worse, there's something else, Liam said hesitantly, looking through the glass door at Maya, who was carefully coloring with trembling hands. The reconstructed documents mentioned post-transfer asset liquidation, scheduled for tomorrow morning. Liquidation, Aveline repeated, the word hanging in the air like a death sentence. I believe they're planning to eliminate all evidence of the failed trial, Liam continued, including Kellen and possibly the other patients. Finch is scheduled to present breakthrough results to a military contractor tomorrow afternoon, Graves added, after which he receives the final transfer of research funds, $300 million. Aveline's expression hardened into something dangerous. So tonight is our only chance. To do what? Liam asked. To get proof, she replied. Concrete, undeniable evidence of what Finch is doing. Enough to stop him, prosecute him, and salvage whatever real research might exist for a true treatment. She turned to Liam, her gaze intense. You got into my boardroom unnoticed. You pieced together his secrets from literal garbage, and you saved my life when his plan should have worked perfectly. She paused. I need those skills now. Mr. Byrne, tonight. Liam glanced at Maya through the glass. The thought of leaving her, of walking willingly into danger when she needed him most, was physically painful. But the alternative, letting Finch continue his deadly fraud, was unthinkable. Where? He asked simply. The North Valley Research Facility, Graves answered. Finch's private lab. It's where they store all the original data and samples. It's also where they've been treating Kellen and the other patients. It's heavily secured, Aveline added, but you won't be going in through the front door. A tight, humorless smile touched Liam's lips. Let me guess, you want me to use the maintenance access? Precisely, Aveline confirmed. While the world sees a janitor, I see a highly trained operative who can move unseen through secure facilities. Who better to infiltrate Finch's lab than someone he would never notice? Even if he walked right past him. Liam looked again at Maya, his heart torn between staying with his daughter and fighting for her future. She'll be safe here, Aveline said quietly, following his gaze. I give you my word. Their eyes met, and in that moment, an understanding passed between them, an unlikely alliance forged in the crucible of shared pain and desperate hope. Not CEO and janitor, but two people fighting the same enemy, the same disease. With everything they had, the North Valley Research Facility resembled a fortress in the moonlight, set against the silhouette of distant mountains. Its sterile white buildings and high fences created an island of harsh light in the surrounding darkness. From their vantage point half a mile away, Liam studied the compound through night vision binoculars, mentally cataloguing security measures. 3 patrol routes, motion sensors along the perimeter, camera coverage with minimal blind spots, he reported. Military-grade security for a supposedly civilian medical research center. Graves nodded beside him, adjusting his tactical gear. Finch convinced the board it was necessary to protect proprietary research. Now we know what he was really hiding. In the back of the unmarked van, Aveline studied a detailed schematic of the facility on a tablet. Against medical advice, she had insisted on joining the operation. Her face was pale but determined, the lingering effects of the poison evident only in the slight tremor of her hands. A cruel irony not lost on any of them. The main laboratory is here, she said, pointing to a central building. Level B2, that's where they keep the primary research data and biological samples. And the most security, Graves added grimly. Liam's eyes traced the perimeter fence, following it to a small utility building on the western edge. What about this? Wastewater treatment plant. Aveline zoomed in on the schematic. Yes. Chemical runoff processing from the labs. Minimal staffing, especially at night. That's our way in, Liam said with quiet certainty. I reviewed the maintenance schedules as part of my research. The primary filtration system shuts down for cleaning every night between 2 and 4 a.m. The treatment pipes lead directly into the main building. Graves frowned. Those pipes would be less than 30 inches wide and potentially filled with toxic chemicals. Not during the cleaning cycle, Liam countered, and they'd connect to the central waste processing hub on B3, 1 floor below the main lab. A smile ghosted across Aveline's face. He sees the building not as a fortress, but as a network of vulnerabilities. He sees it the way a janitor would. Her phone vibrated with an encrypted message. She scanned it quickly, her expression tightening. We need to move faster. Our inside source confirms Finch has moved up the timeline. Asset liquidation is now scheduled for 5 a.m., not 6. 3 hours, Graves said, checking his watch. We'll need at least 1 to get into position. Liam made his decision. I go in alone, through the treatment plant. Absolutely not. Graves objected immediately. As protocol requires. Protocol gets us caught, Liam interrupted firmly. 1 person moving quietly through maintenance areas has a chance. A team doesn't. He's right, Aveline said after a moment. Liam's skills are uniquely suited for this approach. She turned to him, her eyes intense. What do you need? Compact extraction equipment, camera bypass tech, secure comms. He paused. And a janitor's uniform. 20 minutes later, Liam stood at the edge of the woods, wearing the blue uniform of Langford Industries maintenance staff. A cleaning cart beside him loaded with specialized equipment, disguised as ordinary cleaning supplies. The familiar weight of the uniform felt like armor, a reminder of the invisible power it granted him in a world that looked past people like him. Your comms are active, Graves said, adjusting the nearly invisible earpiece. We'll monitor from here and provide backup if needed. He handed Liam a small device. Emergency beacon. If things go sideways, activate it and get out. We'll create a diversion. Aveline approached, her face composed but her eyes betraying her tension. The primary research data will be on a secure server. This drive contains a specialized extraction program. She pressed a small device into his palm. It'll bypass their security and copy everything. Liam nodded, securing the drive in an inner pocket. And Liam, she added, her voice lower, if you find physical samples of the compound, I'll get them, he promised. They both knew what remained unspoken. These samples might be the key to developing a real treatment, the last hope for Maya, Kellen, and 17 other patients. Why are you doing this? Aveline asked suddenly. Beyond Maya, I mean, you could have blackmailed us, demanded treatment for her alone. Instead, you warned me, exposed the fraud, risked everything. Liam was silent for a moment, his eyes distant. In the military, I saw what happens when people with power decide whose lives matter. I couldn't save everyone then. He looked back at her, his resolve evident, but I can try now. With that, he moved silently into the darkness, pushing the cleaning cart along the service road that led to the wastewater treatment plant. The guard at the treatment plant was half asleep, bored by his assignment to the facility's least prestigious post. He barely glanced at Liam's ID badge, a perfect forgery created by Graves's team, before waving him through. "Backup filtration systems acting up again?" the guard asked, disinterestedly. "Third time this week?" Liam replied with practiced weariness, hunching his shoulders slightly in the universal body language of the overworked and underpaid. Inside, the treatment plant was a maze of pipes, pumps, and chemical tanks. The air smelled of industrial cleaners and something sharper, more acrid, the runoff from Finch's experiments. Liam navigated through the facility with confident familiarity, his eyes noting cameras and blind spots as he made his way to the maintenance control room. It was empty. As expected during the night shift, Liam quickly located the master control panel for the filtration system. According to the schematics, the main drainage conduit, a 3-foot diameter pipe that ran directly into the research facility's lowest level, would be offline for cleaning for exactly 43 more minutes. Working swiftly, Liam disabled the camera in the control room with a specialized device from his cart that created a loop of empty footage. Then he accessed the maintenance hatch that led to the drainage system. The pipe was larger than he'd expected, but still a tight fit. The interior was slick with residue that he carefully avoided touching, aware that even minimal exposure to the chemicals could be dangerous. He moved slowly, methodically, using small maintenance lights attached to his uniform to illuminate the way forward. After 15 minutes of careful progress, he reached a junction where the pipe split into multiple smaller conduits. According to the schematics, the central line led directly to the main facility's waste processing hub. It was narrower than the primary pipe, forcing Liam to crawl on his stomach, pushing the now disassembled equipment ahead of him piece by piece. In his ear, Graves's voice crackled softly. "Burn status in the secondary line," Liam whispered, approaching the main facility. "Estimate 7 minutes to entry point. Be advised." Aveline's voice joined the communication. "We're monitoring radio traffic. Security is performing an unscheduled patrol of B3 in approximately 10 minutes. Understood." The pipe ended at a heavy steel grate that separated the drainage system from the facility's main waste processing room. Through the slats, Liam could see an industrial space filled with large tanks and processing equipment. It was empty of personnel for now. Using tools from his kit, he carefully removed the grate and slipped into the room, immediately seeking cover behind a large chemical tank. The space smelled of industrial solvents and something else, something that triggered his military training, a faint, distinctive odor that shouldn't be present in a medical research facility. Phosphorus derivatives, weapons grade. His suspicions about Finch's true research hardened into certainty. This wasn't just fraud, it was illegal weapons development using human test subjects as cover. Moving silently between cover points, Liam made his way to a service elevator designed for maintenance staff to transport cleaning equipment between floors. His uniform and the cleaning cart he had reassembled would be his disguise in plain sight. As the elevator doors closed, he checked his watch. 1 hour and 47 minutes until asset liquidation began. Less than 2 hours to find the evidence, extract the data, and get out. The elevator ascended to B2, the main laboratory level. Liam took a deep breath, settling into the calm focus that had kept him alive in combat zones. Then he pushed his cart forward as the doors opened, stepping into the heart of Finch's operation, hiding in plain sight as he had done countless times before. The laboratory level was a stark contrast to the industrial grime of the floors below. Pristine white corridors, stretched in clinical precision, the air cold and filtered to pharmaceutical-grade purity. Security cameras pivoted at regular intervals, their red lights blinking in silent vigilance. Liam pushed his cleaning cart with unhurried purpose. The very picture of a maintenance worker performing routine tasks. "I'm on B2, he murmured, his voice barely audible through the comlink. "Moving toward the central lab." "Understood," Graves responded. "Security systems show all normal. You're invisible so far." Liam passed two white-coated researchers who spared him not even a glance, his uniform rendering him beneath notice in their world of scientific prestige. He nodded respectfully, eyes downcast, absorbing every detail of the facility through his peripheral vision. A secure door marked "Authorized Personnel Only" blocked the entrance to the central laboratory. Beside it, a biometric scanner and keypad awaited credentials Liam didn't possess. He wheeled his cart past without slowing, continuing to the adjacent hallway where he located what he was looking for, an environmental control panel disguised as an ordinary thermostat. From his cart, he removed what appeared to be a standard cleaning spray, but was actually a specialized electronic bypass device. One quick spritz near the panel, and he had access to the ventilation system controls. "Creating a diversion," he whispered into his comm. With a few careful adjustments, he triggered a minor atmospheric pressure imbalance in the central lab. Nothing dangerous, but enough to set off the sensitive environmental alarms that protected the delicate experiments. Within seconds, warning lights flashed, and a calm, automated voice announced, "Environmental variants detected in Laboratory Alpha. Maintenance personnel to respond." "That's your cue," Aveline said through the comm. "Maintenance request now appearing in the system, assigned to ID LB217. You." Liam returned to the secure door just as a flustered lab technician emerged, holding it open as alarm panels blinked behind him. "Are you the maintenance response?" the technician demanded, not bothering to check Liam's credentials closely. "Yes, sir," Liam replied deferentially. "Environmental control troubleshooting." "Well, hurry up. We can't have pressure fluctuations with these samples. The calibration is extremely sensitive." The technician held the door wider, inadvertently granting Liam access to the most secure area of the facility without a single bypass or hack required. Just a janitor doing his job. Inside, Laboratory Alpha was a massive space divided into specialized research stations. 3 scientists worked late, their attention now focused on monitoring screens displaying environmental reading. In the center stood a secure glass enclosure, a clean room within the clean room, containing what appeared to be biological samples in specialized containment units. "Environmental control panel is on the east wall," the technician instructed, already turning away. "Fix it quickly and don't touch anything else." Liam nodded and wheeled his cart toward the indicated panel, taking the opportunity to survey the entire lab. His gaze lingered momentarily on a locked door marked Data Center at the far end of the room. That would be his primary target, the secure servers containing all of Finch's research. He spent several minutes at the environmental panel, making a show of running diagnostics while actually reversing the minor imbalance he had created. All the while, his eyes catalogued security measures, staff movements, and potential escape routes. "A depressure stabilizing," one of the scientists announced with relief. "System returning to normal parameters. Just a sensor miscalibration," Liam explained with the practiced humility of service staff. "I've reset it and run a level 2 diagnostic. Should be stable now." The scientists barely acknowledged him, already returning to their work. Liam moved his cart to a maintenance alcove, positioning himself to observe the lab while appearing to organize his cleaning supplies. Through his earpiece, he heard Graves speaking with Aveline. "We have a problem," Graves said, his voice tense. "Facial recognition just picked up Dr. Finch arriving at the facility. He's not supposed to be here until morning. The attempt on me must have accelerated his timeline," Aveline replied. "Liam, you need to move faster." Liam studied the lab's rhythm, waiting for his moment. It came when an announcement called the 3 scientists to a video conference in an adjacent room. As they filed out, Liam moved swiftly to the data center door. From his cart, he retrieved what looked like a bottle of specialized floor cleaner, but was actually a cutting-edge electronic lock bypass. The door clicked open 30 seconds later. Inside, banks of servers hummed in climate-controlled isolation. Liam located the primary research database and inserted Aveline's specialized drive. The screen flashed briefly as the program initiated, beginning the data extraction process. "Download in progress," he whispered. "Estimated completion 4 minutes. While the download continued, Liam returned to the main laboratory, the glass-enclosed clean room in the center that would contain the physical samples he needed. The electronic lock here was more sophisticated, but not impenetrable to someone with his training. As he worked on bypassing the clean room security, movement at the main laboratory entrance caught his eye. Through the small window in the door, he glimpsed a familiar face. Dr. Alistair Finch had arrived on the floor, accompanied by 2 men who moved with the unmistakable bearing of private military contractors, not laboratory security. Liam ducked behind his cart as they entered, his heart rate steady despite the danger. Years of combat had taught him to channel fear into focused awareness. Finch is in the lab, he breathed into his comm. With armed escorts. Can you abort? Graves asked. Negative. Download at 60%. Need the samples. Through a reflection in a polished cabinet, Liam watched as Finch instructed his men to begin preparations in another section of the laboratory. They seemed focused on a large containment unit being readied for transport. Asset liquidation preparations already underway. The clean room lock finally yielded. Liam slipped inside, his movements efficient and precise. The central table held dozens of labeled samples in specialized storage containers. He quickly located the ones marked NDS-P7, the 7th variant of the neurotoxin, according to the documents he had reconstructed. With practiced hands, he secured 3 sample vials in a specialized containment case disguised as a cleaning supply container. As he was about to exit the clean room, his gaze fell on a tablet left active on the workstation. The screen displayed patient data, current vital signs from the test subjects, 17 children's names, vital statistics, and real-time medical data scrolled before his eyes. And at the top of the list, Kellen Langford, with a notification flashing beside his name, prep for transport, 0430. Liam snapped several photos of the screen with a concealed camera, then slipped out of the clean room, careful to reseal it exactly as he had found it. He returned to the data center just as the download completed. Retrieving the drive, he erased all traces of the intrusion from the system logs. He was preparing to exit when voices approached the data center door, Finch and one of his armed escorts. There was no time to reach the maintenance alcove where his cart waited. All records transferred by 4 a.m., Finch was saying. Nothing can remain on these servers. Understood. Yes, sir, the guard responded. And the subject's preparation for transport begins at 4:30 as scheduled. The disposal team is standing by at the secondary facility. The door handle turned. In one fluid motion, Liam pressed himself against the wall behind the opening door, becoming one with the shadows. As Finch entered, the doctor paused, frowning slightly as he scanned the room. Something wrong, sir? The guard asked. Finch hesitated, then shook his head. No, begin the data purge protocol. I'll check on the sample preparations. As they moved to the central console, Liam slipped silently through the door before it closed, his years of stealth training making the impossible look effortless. He retrieved his cart and continued his maintenance routine, heart rate never betraying the adrenaline coursing through his veins. I have the data and sample, he murmured into his comm. But there's a complication. They're moving up the liquidation timeline. Transport prep begins at 4:30, not 5 Get out now, Aveline commanded, her voice tight. We have what we need. Negative, Liam responded, watching Finch through the laboratory windows. The evidence isn't enough to stop what's happening right now. Those 17 children and your brother are still in immediate danger. A tense silence followed before Graves spoke. What are you proposing? Liam's eyes tracked Finch as the doctor moved through the laboratory, his demeanor that of a man tying up loose ends. I need to find where they're keeping the patients. Finch mentioned a secondary facility for disposal. We need that location. Too risky, Graves objected. Extraction was the mission. The mission is saving those patients, Liam countered softly. Tell me you have another way to find them in time. The silence that followed was answer enough. Liam watched as Finch entered an office at the far end of the laboratory complex, the frosted glass door closing behind him. I'm going after Finch, Liam decided. His office will have the transport details. Liam, Aveline began. "And I didn't come this far to let those children die," he interrupted, his voice carrying the steel of absolute resolve. "Maya is counting on me. Kellen is counting on us. I'm proceeding." Without waiting for a response, Liam adjusted his path, pushing his cleaning cart toward Finch's office. The weight of the evidence he'd already collected was nothing compared to the weight of what was at stake. Finch's office was a testament to carefully cultivated prestige. Awards and diplomas lined the walls, illuminated by subtle lighting that drew the eye to each achievement. A large mahogany desk dominated the space, its surface immaculate except for a single laptop and a framed photograph of Finch shaking hands with the senator. Liam positioned his cleaning cart just outside the frosted glass door, angling it to create a natural barrier. From his pocket, he retrieved a small device that would alert him if anyone approached. Then he slipped inside, careful to leave the door slightly ajar. A janitor at work, nothing more. Inside, he moved with practiced efficiency, searching for transport details while leaving no trace of his presence. The laptop was secured and would take too long to hack. Instead, he focused on the desk drawers, methodically checking each one until he found what he was looking for in the bottom right drawer, a tablet locked with a biometric scanner. "Problem," he whispered into his comm. "Secured tablet. Fingerprint required. Can you bypass it?" Graves asked. "Not quickly enough." Liam studied the device. Then the desk surfaced. But Finch might have already unlocked it earlier. He carefully lifted the tablet with a microfiber cloth from his uniform pocket, preserving any fingerprints. From his disguised toolkit, he removed what appeared to be furniture polish, but was actually a specialized powder that would reveal latent fingerprints on the screen. A light dusting showed a clear pattern. Finch had indeed used the tablet recently. With delicate precision, Liam applied a transparent adhesive film to lift the fingerprint, then transferred it to a synthetic membrane designed to fool biometric scanners. The tablet unlocked on the first attempt, revealing a series of files labeled by date. Liam opened the most recent timestamp just hours earlier. "I've got something," he breathed. "Transport manifest. 5 refrigerated vehicles. Destination." He paused, scanning the document. Blackridge Airfield. Private Hangar 7. Scheduled departure, 0600 hours. That's a remote airstrip 30 miles northwest, Graves confirmed. Often used for classified military transport. Patient transfer protocol attached, Liam continued, quickly photographing each page with his hidden camera. "They're being moved as biological specimens, medical waste classification. They're erasing every trace." Aveline's voice was cold with fury. "And they're moving them somewhere they can dispose of them without questions." Liam scrolled further, finding a secure message thread between Finch and someone identified only as Vance. The exchange confirmed his worst fears. "Post-transfer liquidation protocols confirmed," he read. "Subjects to be processed immediately upon arrival. No remains." He swallowed hard, thinking of the 17 children and Kellen. They're not even trying to hide it in their internal communications. They're talking about murder. "We need to get this to the FBI immediately," Aveline said. "Won't be fast enough," Liam countered, still scanning documents. "The transport begins in less than an hour. Even with your influence, federal response would take..." He stopped abruptly as his alert device vibrated. Someone was approaching the office. "A company coming," he whispered, quickly returning the tablet exactly as he'd found it. He moved to the door, grabbing a cleaning cloth and spray as it opened. Dr. Finch stood in the doorway, momentarily startled to find someone in his office. Behind him loomed one of the armed guards, hand resting casually near his concealed weapon. "What are you doing in here?" Finch demanded, his cultured voice sharp with suspicion. Liam kept his eyes downcast, his posture submissive. "Scheduled cleaning, sir. Management added executive offices to the night rotation." He held up the spray bottle and cloth as evidence. "Just finishing the desk now." Finch studied him, eyes narrowing. "I don't recall seeing you before." "Just transferred from the East facility, sir," Liam replied smoothly. "Still learning the routes." The guard stepped forward, clearly suspicious. "ID?" Liam produced his forged badge, pulse steady despite the danger. The guard examined it closely while Finch watched with growing impatience. "It checks out," the guard finally said, returning the badge. "Fine," Finch waved dismissively. "Finish quickly and go. We have important work tonight. Yes, sir. Almost done. Liam made a show of wiping down the desk edge, carefully avoiding the areas he'd already searched. Finch moved to his computer, typing rapidly while occasionally glancing at Liam with lingering suspicion. The guard remained by the door, his stance relaxed, but vigilant. Through his earpiece, Liam could hear Graves's tense breathing. One wrong move, one suspicious action, and everything would unravel. He concentrated on his cleaning, the mundane movements a perfect cover for his racing thoughts. "Sir," the guard suddenly said, "Dr. Vance is requesting your presence in preparation room A. The first subject is ready for pre-transport processing." A cold smile touched Finch's lip. "Excellent. Tell him I'll be there momentarily." He turned to Liam. "You. Finish and get out. This entire wing is closing for specialized maintenance in 20 minutes. No cleaning staff permitted after that." "Yes, sir. Just about done." Finch gathered several documents from his desk, tucking them into a leather portfolio. As he turned to leave, his phone rang. The caller ID displayed Langford Industries, security. Liam's blood ran cold. Had they been discovered? Finch answered with evident annoyance. "This is Dr. Finch. What is it?" His expression shifted as he listened, eyes suddenly darting to Liam with renewed suspicion. "When? I see. No alarm here. Yes, check all personnel thoroughly." He ended the call, his face now a mask of controlled rage. "Problem, sir?" the guard asked. "Security breach at the main facility," Finch replied, eyes never leaving Liam. "Someone accessed restricted files remotely. They're checking all outlying facilities as well." He stepped closer to Liam. "Strange timing, wouldn't you say?" Liam kept his expression neutral, continuing to clean. "I wouldn't know about that, sir. Just following my schedule." "Indeed." Finch's voice had turned silky. "Dangerous. Peterson, escort our maintenance friend out of the building. Personally. Then meet me in prep room A." "Yes, sir." The guard, Peterson, stepped forward, his hand now resting openly on his weapon. "Let's go." Liam gathered his cleaning supplies, mind racing through scenarios. Being escorted out meant he couldn't reach the preparation rooms where the patients were being readied for transport, but it also meant potential access to other areas along the exit route. "Burn." Graves' voice was tense in his ear. "Get out clean if you can. We have enough to move on the airfield directly." Liam followed Peterson through the laboratory complex, mentally mapping their route against the facility schematics he'd memorized. They were taking a service corridor, less monitored than the main hallways, but also more isolated, perfect for an accident. His suspicion was confirmed when Peterson directed him toward a freight elevator instead of the main exit. As the doors closed, the guard's posture shifted subtly, his hand moving toward his weapon. "So," Peterson said casually, "transferred from the east facility." "Funny, I don't recall us having an east facility." Liam set down his cleaning cart, positioning it between them. Must have misheard the assignment. Must have. Peterson's hand now rested openly on his holstered pistol. "Why don't we take a little detour to security? Clear this up." The elevator began its descent, level B1, then B2. As it approached B3, the waste processing level where Liam had entered, he made his move. With practiced precision, he released a hidden compartment in his cleaning cart, deploying a sudden cloud of industrial-grade cleaning powder that filled the elevator. Peterson reacted instinctively, raising his arm to shield his eyes, the momentary distraction Liam needed. 3 precise strikes later, Peterson lay unconscious on the elevator floor. Liam quickly secured him with zip ties from his disguised toolkit, then removed the guard's radio and weapon. "Now situation changed," he reported into his comm. "Cover blown. I've neutralized one guard, but Finch knows something's wrong. He's accelerating the schedule." "Get out now," Aveline commanded. "We'll intercept at the airfield." "Negative," Liam replied, overriding the elevator controls to stop at B3. "Finch mentioned preparation room A. That's where they're holding at least one patient. I can reach it through the service corridors." "It's too dangerous," Graves argued. "The entire facility will be on alert, which is exactly why I need to get to those patients now," Liam countered. "If Finch suspects a security breach, he won't wait for the scheduled transport. He'll eliminate the evidence immediately." The elevator doors opened to the waste processing level. Liam dragged Peterson's unconscious form into a storage closet, then used the guard's security badge to access the restricted service corridors. "I'm going to preparation room A," he stated, his tone brooking no argument. Send whatever backup you can to the facility. I'll try to delay the transport until you can bring in the authorities." He moved swiftly through the dim service corridors, guided by the mental map he'd constructed from studying the facility schematics. The guard's security badge granted him access to areas that would have been otherwise impossible to reach. As he approached the medical wing, the sterile white corridors gave way to a more clinical environment. Through a window in a set of double doors, he caught sight of his destination, Preparation Room A, where white-coated technicians moved around a hospital bed containing a still form. Preparation Room A resembled a military field hospital more than a research facility. Through the observation window, Liam counted 4 medical technicians in full hazmat suits, moving with clinical efficiency around a hospital bed. On it lay a still form, male, middle-aged, limbs secured with medical restraints. Monitoring equipment displayed vital signs that Liam recognized as dangerously unstable. Even from this distance, he could see the telltale tremors in the patient's hands. "Kellen Langford, it had to be. I've located at least one patient," Liam whispered into his comm. "Prep Room A appears to be Kellen. They're preparing him for transport now. Can you confirm it's him?" Aveline's voice was tight with desperate hope. "Not visually, but matches description. Male, approximately 45, advanced NDS symptoms, 4 technicians plus Dr. Vance." An older man with thinning grey hair stood at the foot of the bed, reviewing data on a tablet. From Liam's reconstructed documents, he recognized Dr. Corbin Vance, the disgraced researcher who had partnered with Finch to develop the weaponized neurotoxin. "No sign of Finch yet," Liam added, scanning the room. "They're administering something intravenous, preparing for transport." "Can you intervene?" Graves asked. Liam assessed the situation with the cold calculation of a combat veteran. "Not directly. 4 technicians plus Vance, all in hazmat suits. Additional security likely nearby. I need a different approach." His gaze settled on the environmental control panel beside the preparation room door. Like all research areas in the facility, the room would have specialized atmospheric systems that could be manipulated. "I have an idea," he said. "There's an emergency atmospheric purge system for hazardous chemical exposure. If triggered, it would force an immediate evacuation of the room." "Do it," Aveline commanded without hesitation. Liam moved to the control panel, using Peterson's security badge to access the emergency protocols. With practiced precision, he overrode the safety interlocks and activated the emergency purge sequence. Immediately, strobing red lights activated above the preparation room door. Inside, alarm klaxons blared as the atmospheric system began rapidly extracting air from the sealed environment. Warning messages flashed on the internal monitors, and the technicians' heads snapped up in confusion and alarm. Liam ducked into a nearby utility closet, watching through a crack in the door as the preparation room's emergency protocol unfolded exactly as he'd hoped. Within seconds, the technicians were moving in controlled panic, disconnecting Kellen from the equipment and rushing toward the exit. The door burst open, and the team emerged, pushing Kellen's gurney ahead of them. Dr. Vance followed, shouting orders as they hurried down the corridor toward an emergency decontamination area, away from the transport loading bay. "They've evacuated the patient," Liam reported, moving to intercept. "Liam, wait," Graves warned. "We have reports of increased security activity. Finch has called in additional forces." Ignoring the warning, Liam slipped from his hiding place and followed the medical team at a distance. They reached a large decontamination chamber and sealed themselves inside. Standard protocol for a purge alarm, buying Liam precious minutes. He approached the chamber's external monitoring station, where he could observe the team through surveillance cameras as they underwent the automated decontamination process. Kellen's gurney was visible in the center of the chamber, the man's face now clearly visible on the monitor. "Visual confirmation," Liam said, studying the face that matched the photos he'd seen in Aveline's files. "Well, it's definitely Kellen Langford." A choked sound came through his earpiece. Aveline, momentarily overwhelmed by the confirmation that her brother was alive. "His vitals?" she asked, regaining composure. Liam checked the medical telemetry displayed on the monitoring station. Pulse elevated. Blood pressure unstable. They've sedated him heavily. He zoomed in on the IV bag attached to Kellen's arm. There's an unlabeled secondary infusion. Amber-colored fluid. That's it, Aveline said sharply. The compound. They're actively poisoning him. Liam's mind raced through options. The decontamination process would take another 6 minutes according to the display. Once complete, the team would continue with transport preparations. He needed to act now. Where are the other patients? Graves asked. The children? Unknown, Liam replied, scanning the facility schematics on the monitoring station, likely in adjacent preparation rooms. But I can only confirm Kellen's location. A sudden commotion from the corridor behind him forced Liam to duck behind a storage cabinet. Dr. Finch appeared, flanked by 2 armed guards, his face contorted with fury. What the hell happened? He demanded of a security officer who had rushed to meet him. An environmental purge activation in Prep Room A, sir. The team followed evacuation protocol and moved the subject to decontamination. Was it a system malfunction? Finch asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Unknown, sir. We're checking the logs now. Find out who did this, Finch hissed. This facility is compromised. Accelerate the timeline on all subjects. I want full transport readiness in 20 minutes, not 40, and double the security at the loading bay. As Finch and his entourage continued down the corridor toward the decontamination chamber, Liam remained hidden, processing this new information. Did you get that? He whispered once they had passed. Yes, Graves replied. We're mobilizing now. FBI tactical team is 30 minutes out. We'll intercept at the airfield. Won't be soon enough, Liam countered. They're moving everything up. I need to delay the transport. How? Aveline asked. Liam's gaze fell on the facility schematics still displayed on the monitoring station. The loading bay. All subjects will funnel through there for transport. If I can disable the bay doors or the transport vehicles, too heavily guarded, Graves objected. You'd never get close enough. Liam studied the schematic more carefully, noting the mechanical systems that served the loading area. Maybe I don't need to. The vehicle bay has a specialized ventilation system for exhaust management. If I could introduce something into that system. What are you thinking? Aveline asked. A diversion, Liam replied. Something to trigger the hazardous materials protocols for the entire wing. It would lock down the loading bay automatically. He traced the ventilation pathways on the schematic, locating an access point 2 corridors away from his current position. With determined purpose, he moved through the service areas, avoiding the increasing security presence. Finch is panicking, Graves observed through the comm. That's good and bad. He'll make mistakes, but he'll also be more dangerous. His priority will be the research data and sample, Liam said, reaching the ventilation access panel. The patients are just evidence to be eliminated at this point. Using tools from his maintenance kit, he quickly removed the panel cover, revealing the complex ductwork beyond. From his disguised toolkit, he retrieved what appeared to be ordinary cleaning chemicals, but were actually specialized compounds that, when combined, would create a thick, obscuring smoke with a distinctive chemical signature, enough to trigger the facility's hazardous materials protocols without causing actual harm. Initiating diversion in 30 seconds, he reported. Be ready to move on the loading bay from the exterior when the alarm sounds. The automated lockdown will trap everyone inside temporarily. Understood? Graves confirmed. We're in position outside the facility perimeter. Aveline insisted on coming. We have a medical team standing by. Liam paused, surprised. She's there, physically. I am, Aveline's voice came through clearly. My brother, my responsibility. Something shifted in Liam's chest. Respect, recognition of a kindred spirit. Like him, she was willing to risk everything for family. Stand by, he said, mixing the chemicals and inserting the rapidly smoking compound into the ventilation system. Diversion commencing now. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Dense white smoke billowed through the ventilation system, spreading rapidly toward the loading bay. Within seconds, alarm klaxons blared throughout the facility, and automated announcements began directing personnel to emergency evacuation points. Hazardous material detection in Sector 4. Automated containment protocol activated. All personnel evacuate immediately. Steel containment doors began closing throughout the facility, designed to isolate the affected areas. The loading bay would be sealed, preventing any transport from leaving, but also potentially trapping Liam inside. He moved quickly, navigating through the increasingly chaotic corridors. Security personnel and researchers rushed toward evacuation points, creating a confusion he used to his advantage. His janitor's uniform continued to serve as the perfect camouflage, allowing him to move against the flow of evacuating personnel without raising suspicion. Reaching an observation balcony overlooking the loading bay, Liam witnessed the scene below. 5 transport vehicles sat ready, their rear doors open. Medical teams were rushing to load gurneys into the vehicles as the containment protocol counted down. Among them, he spotted Kellen being wheeled toward the nearest transport and supervising it all. Standing in the center of the chaos with cold calculation was Dr. Alistair Finch. The loading bay had descended into controlled chaos. Alarm systems blared as thick white smoke billowed through the ventilation ducts. Automated warnings counted down the seconds until the containment doors would seal, cutting off all access to the outside world. Medical technicians rushed to load gurneys into the waiting transport vehicles, their movements urgent but precise. From his position on the observation balcony, Liam counted the gurneys, 17 in total, most holding small, still forms beneath white sheets. Children, 17 children whose only crime was having the same disease as his daughter. And there, being wheeled toward the lead transport, was Kellen Langford. "I have visual on all patients," Liam reported quietly. 17 children plus Kellen. They're loading them into the transports now. Containment doors closing in approximately 2 minutes. "We are in position outside the northeastern perimeter," Graves responded. "Security systems are in disarray from the evacuation protocol. We can breach when you give the signal." Liam watched as Dr. Finch moved through the loading bay with cold efficiency, checking each transport vehicle before moving to the next. The man's face betrayed no emotion, no recognition that he was overseeing the transport of human beings to their deaths. "Finch is personally supervising," Liam said. "Once those containment doors close, they'll override the protocol and complete the loading. I need to create more time." His gaze settled on the environmental control panel for the loading bay, similar to the one he had used to trigger the purge in Preparation Room A. If he could access it, he might be able to escalate the emergency response. Moving quickly along the observation balcony, Liam located a maintenance ladder that led down to the loading bay floor. With the chaos below, no one noticed as he descended, keeping to the shadows along the periphery of the massive space. 30 seconds to containment door closure, the automated system announced. Liam reached the environmental panel, using Peterson's security badge to gain access. As a janitor, he knew these systems intimately, their vulnerabilities, their override protocols, the ways they could be manipulated. With swift, precise movements, he activated the emergency decontamination sequence, a protocol even more severe than the hazardous materials containment. Immediately, red warning lights flooded the loading bay, and a new automated voice echoed through the space. "Critical biohazard detected. Level 4, decontamination sequence initiated. All personnel must evacuate immediately. Sterilization commencing in 60 seconds. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Medical technicians abandoned their tasks, rushing toward emergency exits. The containment doors, which had begun to descend, reversed course, programmed to allow personnel evacuation before the decontamination process began. Only Finch remained calm amidst the pandemonium, his eyes scanning the loading bay with dawning suspicion. As personnel fled around him, his gaze locked onto the environmental control panel where Liam stood. Recognition flashed across Finch's face, followed by cold fury. He reached inside his lab coat, withdrawing a pistol. "Now!" Liam shouted into his comm. "Breach now!" Even as he spoke, explosive charges detonated at the northeastern loading dock doors. The reinforced steel buckled inward with a thunderous roar. Through the breach stormed a tactical team in full gear, led by Graves, and behind them, moving with determined purpose despite her still recovering condition, came Aveline Langford. Finch's head snapped toward the breach, momentary confusion crossing his features. In that split second of distraction, Liam moved, closing the distance between them with the fluid speed of his military training. Finch managed to turn back, raising his weapon, but Liam was already upon him. A precise strike to the doctor's wrist sent the pistol clattering across the floor. Finch stumbled backward, his face contorted with rage. "Yo!" he spat. "The janitor. I should have known. You should have." Liam agreed, advancing steadily. "But that's the problem with people like you, Doctor. You never really see people like me." Finch lunged for a nearby surgical tray, grabbing a scalpel and slashing wildly. Liam dodged the desperate attack, catching Finch's arm and using the man's momentum to slam him against the wall. The scalpel dropped from nerveless fingers as Liam applied precise pressure to key nerve points. "It's over," Liam said, his voice quiet but carrying absolute finality. "The FBI has your research data, your samples, and all the evidence of what you've been doing here. 17 families know you've been poisoning their children instead of treating them." Finch's eyes darted around wildly, seeking escape. Finding none, a strange calm settled over him. "You understand nothing," he hissed. "This research goes beyond individual lives. The applications, the potential, it will revolutionize neurological warfare. Those children, Kellen Langford, they're contributing to something historic." "They're not contributing," Liam corrected, tightening his hold as Finch struggled. "They're being murdered." Across the loading bay, Aveline had reached Kellen's gurney. Her hands shook as she gently touched her brother's face. His eyes fluttered open, recognition dawning slowly through the heavy sedation. "Ava?" Kellen's voice was barely audible, his hand trembling as he reached for her. "I'm here," she whispered, gripping his fingers. "I'm here, Kellen. You're safe now." Graves and his team had secured the area, medical personnel rushing to stabilize the patients. FBI agents in tactical gear streamed through the breach, taking control of the facility and the transport vehicles. "The Amber Solution," Liam called out to the medical team attending Kellen. "Remove it immediately. It's not treatment, it's poison." A doctor quickly disconnected the IV bag containing the amber fluid, replacing it with standard saline. Similar actions were taken for each of the 17 children as they were carefully transferred from the transport gurneys to proper medical stretchers. Finch watched this systematic dismantling of his operation with the detached fascination of a scientist observing an unexpected experimental outcome. Then, with a sudden movement that caught Liam off guard, he twisted free of the hold. "This isn't over," he snarled, backing away. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, the powers involved." His retreat was halted by the cold press of a gun barrel against the base of his skull. Behind him stood Aveline Langford, her face a mask of controlled rage, her hand steady as it held Graves's sidearm. "I know exactly who I'm dealing with," she said, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "A fraud, a murderer, a man who was willing to kill my brother and 17 innocent children for profit and professional acclaim." Finch froze, the color draining from his face. "Ms. Langford, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," she cut him off. "I funded you. I believed in you. I gave you access to my brother, to my company, to everything." Her finger tightened almost imperceptibly on the trigger. "And you betrayed it all." The loading bay had fallen silent, all eyes on the tableau of CEO and scientist. Even the FBI agents had paused, recognizing the gravity of the moment. "Aveline," Liam said quietly, moving closer. "He'll face justice, the proper kind." Her eyes, cold as steel, never left Finch. "There is no justice adequate for what he's done." "Maybe not," Liam acknowledged. "No, but there's something more important right now." He gestured to the stretchers being prepared for transport to legitimate medical facilities. "Those children, your brother, they need real treatment. They need hope." For a long moment, Aveline remained motionless, the gun unwavering. Then, slowly, she lowered the weapon, stepping back as FBI agents moved in to take Finch into custody. She turned to Liam, her expression softening slightly. "The samples you recovered, the research data, could it lead to a real treatment? With the right scientists, the right funding?" "Yes," Liam replied. Finch's work was built on a foundation of legitimate research before he perverted it. That foundation can be reclaimed. Aveline nodded once. "Decision made. Then that's what we'll do." She looked to where her brother was being attended by medical staff. "For Kellen, for Yamaya, for all of them." Around them, The facility that had housed so much suffering was being systematically secured, its secrets exposed to the light. What had begun with a desperate janitor piecing together shredded documents in the dark had culminated in the rescue of 18 lives and the unraveling of a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of Langford Industries. But for Liam, standing amid the chaos of the loading bay, the victory felt incomplete. The real battle, the one against the disease itself, was just beginning. 6 months later, spring sunlight spilled through the windows of the Langford Burn Research Center, casting golden patterns across the polished floors. The facility, once Finch's private domain of deception and death, had been transformed into a beacon of legitimate medical research, its laboratories now dedicated to finding a real cure for neurosynaptic decay syndrome. Liam stood at the window of the observation room, watching Maya in the therapy center below. She was carefully building a tower of blocks, her movements more precise than they had been in months. Beside her sat Kellen Langford, his own hands steadier as he added a block to the top of the structure. They laughed together when it wobbled but didn't fall. "The latest results are promising," Aveline said, stepping into the room. She handed Liam a tablet displaying brain scans and complex neurological data. "The modified treatment is reversing neural degradation in 70% of patients, including Maya and Kellen." Liam studied the scans, noting the improvements in neural pathway integrity. "The tremors are decreasing. Maya can hold a crayon for almost an hour now without her hands cramping." Aveline smiled, a genuine expression that had become less rare in recent months. "Kellen sailed yesterday just around the harbor," but her voice caught slightly. "He said he could feel the sun on his face without feeling like he was fading away." They stood in comfortable silence, watching their loved ones below. The journey from that fateful day in the boardroom to this moment had been arduous, filled with federal investigations, congressional hearings, and the painstaking process of untangling Finch's web of deception to salvage the legitimate research buried beneath. Dr. Finch and Dr. Vance now awaited trial on 18 counts of attempted murder, along with fraud, conspiracy, and numerous violations of medical ethics and federal regulations. The case had exposed corruption that reached into government contracting offices and military research divisions. The ripples continued to spread. "The board meeting is in an hour," Aveline said, checking her watch. "Are you ready?" Liam nodded, adjusting the collar of his suit jacket, still an unfamiliar sensation after years in maintenance uniforms. "As ready as I'll ever be." His official title now was Director of Security and Special Projects, though his actual role at Langford Industries defied simple classification. His unique combination of military training, medical knowledge, and first-hand experience with NDS had proved invaluable in restructuring the company's research division and establishing new ethical protocols. The transition hadn't been easy. Many in Langford's executive ranks had resisted the inclusion of a former janitor in their midst. But Aveline's first demand to the board, after recovering from the poisoning attempt, had been non-negotiable. Liam Byrne would be given a position of authority within the company, with direct oversight of the reconstituted Langford initiative. They had little choice but to agree. The evidence he had gathered had not only saved Aveline's life and exposed Finch's conspiracy, but had also protected the company from complete collapse when the scandal broke. As they prepared to leave the observation room, Graves appeared in the doorway. The security chief walked with a slight limp now, a permanent reminder of the gunfight at the research facility, but otherwise showed remarkable recovery. "The results from the independent audit are in, he reported, handing Aveline a sealed folder. "Clean. The new research protocols have been fully implemented across all divisions." Aveline accepted the folder with a nod. "And the family. All 17 children are showing improvement under the modified treatment," Graves confirmed. "Their families have been relocated to housing near the center with full medical coverage as promised." It had been Liam's first condition when agreeing to join Langford Industries that every child affected by Finch's fraudulent trials would receive the same care as Maya, regardless of cost. Aveline had agreed without hesitation, establishing a foundation that covered all expenses for the affected families. "We should head to the board meeting," Aveline said, glancing once more at Maya and Kellen below. Today's vote is critical. The boardroom was unchanged from the day Liam had saved Aveline's life. The same obsidian table, the same floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city skyline. But the people around that table were different. Several board members implicated in Finch's conspiracy had resigned or been removed. New faces now looked to Aveline for leadership. As Liam took his seat beside her, he couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought him here. 6 months ago, he had been invisible in this room, a ghost in a janitor's uniform, desperate to save his daughter. Now he sat as an equal, his voice not just heard but sought after. "Ladies and gentlemen," Aveline began, her authority absolute as she addressed the board. "Today we vote on the full implementation of the Langford-Burn Protocol across all research divisions. This represents the most significant restructuring in our company's history." She outlined the new ethical framework that would govern all Langford Industries research moving forward: transparent reporting, independent oversight, patient advocacy at every level, and the unprecedented step of making all non-proprietary research data publicly available to the global scientific community. "This isn't just about preventing another Finch," she concluded. It's about transforming how medical research is conducted. It's about recognizing that behind every data point is a human life, a Maya, a Kellen." The vote was unanimous in favor. Later, as they stood on the rooftop garden of Langford Tower, watching the sunset paint the city in shades of gold, Aveline turned to Liam. "6 months ago, you stopped me from getting into a car that would have taken me to my death," she said quietly. "You were invisible then, but you saw everything. You saw what I had missed, what I had been too proud or too desperate to acknowledge." Liam nodded, remembering that moment of desperate certainty when he had called out to her across the social chasm that separated. "When the board asked me today why I insisted on naming the protocol after both of us, I told them the truth," Aveline continued. "I told them that sometimes the most valuable perspective comes from someone who sees the world from a different angle, someone who knows what it means to be unseen." She handed him an envelope. Inside was a document transferring 50% ownership of the Langford-Burn Research Center into his name. "This isn't charity or gratitude," she said, meeting his surprised gaze steadily. "This is recognition that we need both perspectives to succeed, the view from the top and the view from below, the CEO and the janitor together." From the garden below came the sound of laughter. Maya and Kellen were exploring the rooftop garden, their movements still showing traces of the disease that had nearly claimed them, but stronger now, more confident. Maya looked up and waved, her smile brilliant in the fading light. "Daddy, look what I drew." She held up her sketchbook, the tremors in her hands barely visible now. The drawing showed a castle, but not the fortress, with high walls and gates to keep monsters out that she had drawn 6 months ago. This castle was open, its doors wide, the sun shining down on stick figures standing together on a green lawn. Liam recognized all of them, himself, Maya, Kellen, Aveline, Graves, and the other children from the trial. Behind them stood a tall tower with windows that reflected the sun like diamonds. "It's our new home," Maya explained as they approached, "where nobody has to shake and nobody has to be invisible anymore." Aveline knelt beside her, studying the drawing with genuine interest. "It's beautiful, Maya. Is that Langford Tower?" Maya shook her head, her dark curls bouncing. "No, it's the Langford-Burn Tower. See?" She pointed to the tiny letters she had carefully printed above the entrance. "Daddy says that's what it's called now." Aveline's eyes met Liam's over Maya's head, a silent understanding passing between them. Two people from vastly different worlds who had found common ground in the most unlikely of circumstances. "Yes," Aveline said softly, "that's exactly what it's called."